Welcome to Soul Night Live, number 87. Today, our guest is Billy Cobham, and my co host is Eric Sanders.
Oh, hi, Sean.
Hey, Billy.
How you doing?
I'm doing
Hey,
well.
Billy.
Hey, how you doing, man?
It's great to see you again.
Yeah, it's good to see you both. Nice and healthy and blossoming.
We're trying, man. I actually got a gig tomorrow, so I'm blossoming more than I have in months. It's
Okay.
outside. It's kind of a church-related thing. So
There's nothing wrong with that.
I love it. Love it. We're just playing a bunch of classic rock stuff, but it's just
hmm
fun to get together and play with some of my favorite friends. So,
hmm
and get some sunshine and some fresh air.
It surely does help.
Yeah, I love to go out. I love outdoor gigs, on a beautiful day
Oh,
anytime.
it's out. Where you guys at again?
We're in Atlanta.
We're in Atlanta.
Okay.
Yeah,
Oh, wow.
yeah,
Beautiful.
and it's
Beautiful.
at a friend's church, and basically it's kind of set back from the road about a half a block. So they have this giant grassy field where,
hmm
hundreds of people could hang out without getting in each other's way.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Beautiful.
safe
Beautiful.
way to do it. Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Um, so thanks for coming back by. We had a great chat last time, really enjoyed it, but we just barely got around to talking about your own writing and your own albums. So we
Oh,
wanted to
okay.
get back together with you and, focus
hmm
on that today because I love that stuff as much as the stuff you've done with the bands you played with. So,
hmm
if
hmm
not more in some cases. So real excited to ask about that. Um, but we want to talk about your stress-free drumming a little bit, real quick,
Oh,
just in case
hmm
anybody's tuning in today that we didn't see it last time. So,
hmm
Eric, did you have any questions about that, or?
Yeah, I was wondering how the guide to stress-free drumming is going, and I'm just curious. Perhaps my favorite song of yours is "The Pleasant Pheasant," and I was wondering if it's in your ebook because I think it would be a fantastic song and chart to teach.
No.
Yeah,
Yeah,
maybe.
but it's not no because I don't want to. I just didn't get around to it yet.
Sure,
Um,
sure.
but it will. It's a. It was in the Crosswinds tour, and
Uh-huh.
we played it. I just there's so many other things I needed. I wanted to get out there that like that particular tune. Tends to reflect on the drummer's position in the band to play with the band. It's driving right now a major idea that I've been thinking about for I guess most of my life, but I just was too honestly maybe too afraid to make it happen. That is to write uh, or compose with the idea that when I play certain patterns on the drum set that may come off as being very complex and all, but those patterns are tonally in right in sync with the material or a part of the music that's being played. So sometimes I might play a line that the bass player will play with me, or another instrument, or the band will play, and I will play a drums to enhance the toms, especially to enhance that that line. Um, when it happens, generally, I've heard drummers play patterns that purposely are part of the presentation. It's kind of I don't. I mean, it's set, yeah, and they play it okay, but they play it without meaning. A lot of what I want to do is to be able to do that and get my players to play what I play on their instrument all at the same time. It's but feeling it, so like it's in real time. All these things, you know, take time. People have
Sure.
to get their heads wrapped around who you are, who they are, and how much they latitude they can have one way or another. But it's coming, and in Pleasant Pheasant there's a but yeah. So I may play that pattern in the drum solo, uh, and then elaborate on it in a certain ways by playing different rudiments to take the place of the basic fundamental presentation that we have that's written. And the whole idea is to try to find the right tones on the drums that suit that pattern that's in tune with the band. So
Sure.
we're doing it together as if I was a horn player, um, along with all the other silliness that I have to do to keep everybody together or keep myself as well more than anybody else. But I'm thinking about all these kind of things. They're subtle, but to me, I'm convinced that it's what makes the difference between the present and the future. And you definitely have to trip all over yourself if you're going to play some stuff that you think you'd like to play down the road. That's the future. That's the only way you're going to figure out. No, I guess it doesn't work. Leave that alone.
Been
Until I
there.
can, yeah, and I tried it and it didn't work. Okay, anything else? Get out of there. But and without losing the level of musical intensity along the way. So it becomes a interesting explorations. From one second to the next.
Sure.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So last time around, you answered a question from the live chat about composing, and you mentioned using the program Sibelius.
Yes.
Obviously, programs like that were not around back in the day when you were composing The Pleasant Pheasant. So, what was the main way you composed back then? Was it piano or vibraphone or singing?
Boop, boop, boop,
Hunt
boop,
and
boop,
Peck?
boop,
Yeah,
boop,
Hunt
boop,
and Peck on the
boop,
piano.
boop,
I
boop, boop.
love it.
Yeah, and it was out of desperation. That's the heavy about me becoming a composer. When I heard, and it did, because I of course I heard secondhand that I'd been fired. Nobody, no, I was told that after all the dust cleared. I mean, I think it was the end of the month, and I even made a stupid move when I went up to the office where Mahavishnu was located, and stumbled onto a check. I was told, you've been you just got a check, and I said, "Wow, it's $1,000." And I said, "Wow, I never earned that kind of money in a week with this band in my head ever." I said, "So we finally arrived." I mean, the cynical part of me, man, you're earning $1,000 for the week, yet last weekend, let's say, you, the end of the month was on a Wednesday, and we're in New York on a Monday or a Tuesday. Yeah, bookkeepers provided a check for $1,000, and that weekend the band played at least two shows, maybe say let's call Friday, Saturday, Sunday, maybe. Okay, three different festivals or concerts. One of them was in a hall the size of Philadelphia Spectrum basketball stadium.
Wow.
So, okay, or the size of the Forum, Madison Square Garden, and the band earned almost $250,000.
Wow.
And then I'm just sitting this to myself from what I hear, and I just happened to walk in on a conversation with the then manager of the band and the leader, and they're talking. The numbers are going around, and I'm going, whew. So I mean, meanwhile, so I just wanted to say hello, blah blah blah. I didn't even just went in and came out. Um, Next thing I know, I get a check for $1,000, and I'm happier than the pig in shit because I'm like, I never earned $1,000 with this band, and we made. Some people may disagree. I might be wrong. I might even be wrong, but I think we did close to 500 shows in about 2.5 years, and
Wow.
I never made $1,000 in a week with that band. And I'm going, wow. So thank goodness for it. I mean, yeah, at least I was working. I just left it kind of alone. Next thing I knew, that check was canceled, and I was out on the street. But the funny part about that was I had just made a record. Well, no, I made a record before that in '73, and that was called Spectrum. It was just I mean, I didn't even know. Again, uh, I wasn't going to go to take the place of the artist that was the leader of the band or the star or whatever you want to call it. I was just trying to figure out a way to earn a living because obviously we were. I was loving playing the music, but there was no music. There was no money in it really. If I had to depend on that, forget it. In New York City, I don't think so. Not even then. So I wasn't when I got that $1,000 check. Get out of here, really? And then up to hear later that yeah, man, the kid that was sitting on the floor on some of the stages behind you, he's going to take over playing drums. And I was like,
Wow.
really? And it was not threatening to me that until I mean, years later, I realized, wow, people would tell you, how could you allow somebody like that to just sit down behind you? But I wasn't threatened. It wasn't negative. It wasn't, I never thought about it as more than this kid was being mentored by McLaughlin, and so okay, a whole bunch of people in white, and they're walking around. It could have been in orange, and the other jumping up and down. I don't know. It's not me, and my focus was on the music,
Sure.
and what we were rock. So in a way, I was naive, but on the other side, it was all about the music for me. So I was a bit surprised when I heard the news by God knows who said, "Yeah, it looks like you're not in the band anymore." I went, "Okay, surprised, but I'm not surprised. Whatever, it's maybe it's a blessing in disguise." And then I just sort of melted back into the studio scene without any. I didn't have any problem doing that. I mean, that's what I did
Sure.
before, and actually all through to supplement my income. So it didn't really matter that much. I knew my contractors were still there. I could read. I mean, all these are all the things that I wanted to keep sharp anyway. So the play in that band only enhanced what I was already doing.
Yeah.
And so when somebody said like Don Sebesky or so, uh, we'd like you to come and do this special record. And the record was a whole arrangement of materials that he made for a record called Firebird Birds of Fire, and it was on CTI. He took the music of the Birds of Fire from the Mahavishnu Orchestra, and he combined it with Stravinsky's Firebird.
Cool.
Nice.
And yeah, for the people that he
Yeah.
wanted to have, the drummers that he wanted to have make it happen, they didn't know what to do with it.
Oh, I'm sure.
So they spent more than the time that they would normally spend on making a record, from what I understand, trying to put a spare, a round peg into a square hole, and it didn't work. And so I became the square peg that they needed to put in to the round hole, and that
Sure.
happened within about 3 hours. I mean,
Oh,
I
wow.
walked in, I played the music, and everybody's going, "Wow, that was easy." The story there, and the whole idea of the story is that you find the people who specialize in certain things, and they know what to do with it. It's like that's just what happened with Spectrum. You can make a record in record time, literally, because they're working in their wheelhouse. I mean, you take a band like the band, and you take that groove, uh, and you put them in a certain situation where all they have to do is do that, sing and play. Oh mine, it's heaven, and maybe a couple of the tunes may different names, whatever, but they're doing what they do. It's not about the money. You can make a lot of music, or you can record back in those days a 40 minute record, both sides, and mix it in less than 3 days time. No problem. I mean,
Wow.
2 hour, two sessions, one double session, because that's what they like to do. They're grooving. That's what they do. One song after the other. That is what the Basie band, the Ellington bands, all those bands before would be on the road for weeks, years, playing. And if you ever saw the songbook that these cats had to know, that they never looked into, and many of the musicians in those bands did not read music.
Oh
Yet,
wow.
I mean, these guys, Johnny Hodges, great alto saxophone, lead
Yeah.
alto, you didn't
Yeah.
read a note. And you see and the Ellington book was like this.
I bet.
And they call numbers like, okay, 492. Okay, we're gonna do 492, and everybody knew what 49. It could have been anything, man. And they're doing one of 10 shows a day, one of 10 40-minute shows a day with a break, and they knew they're walking historians, playing their instrument, playing all these tunes, and everybody knew, no question, what to do. When you can put something like that together, when I found, I mean, I got Tommy Bolin and Lee Sklar and Jan Hammer, and just say, hey, this is what we're going to do. I mean, this is what I have in mind to do. Let's just do it. This was supposedly uh, just a check and rehearsal, just to see how this would feel, and it was like, but of course, and so what did it take? Where did we go? We go someplace where the engineer understands it, where the studio makes sense. You go to Hendrix. Okay, so that's on A Street. Yeah, okay. And you bring in an engineer who understands. Okay, Ken Scott. Okay, fine. You throw in the people, the cast of characters that I had, and everybody said, yeah, okay, where is it? Put it up. Okay, good. Let's go. Stomp it off. Boom. Next thing you know, you finish in two double sessions, so that's 4 3-hour sessions in 2 days. The next move is to take that music and mix it. So that's 2 days recording, 2 days mixing, one day to fly. I mean, one day to fly over to the studio to mix. 2 days mixing, fly back. On the Sunday, you start on the Saturday, the Friday and the Saturday. You started on a Tuesday, Wednesday play. Okay, you fly on Tuesday, no, Wednesday, Thursday play, Friday, no, Tuesday, Wednesday play, fly on Thursday, record on Friday and Saturday, fly back on Sunday, and master on Monday. It's
Wow.
just about 7 days, and that record is one 1% of what it costs to make the Steely Dan Asia album.
Of course.
That
Yeah.
those guys should have bought
And
their own studio and just saved some money, I mean,
No, but that's a whole nother story for
oh
another
yeah.
day.
yeah, and what I was going to ask next was about recordings like Spectrum and Crosswinds. When it came time to rehearse and record your bands for those studio releases, I was wondering, like, did you use charts, and if so, did you write them or have a copyist?
Yes on everything. Okay, so I
Cool.
mean, I just wrote all the charts up, mistakes and all. And I wrote,
Wonderful.
Tommy did not read any music.
Right.
Okay.
Imagine.
Jan was he was my ball and chain. No, man, you can't do this, you can't do it. But we worked it out very, very quick. And we just played,
Yeah.
Sklar, and Sklar knew everything, So I mean, it was just that it was in the wheelhouse of the people who I was working with. So
Sure.
they knew what to do once they saw it, and once they felt the groove, and the whole objective was, I understood that I represented, to most musicians back in those days, because of the MO. I was the one person they didn't want to play with. Why? Because there were certain things that I did that they were not comfortable doing for as long as I did it. So let's say I mean, the MO, we average about 2.5 to 3 hours a show playing at this tempo.
Yeah.
Okay. So with that said, of course, everybody goes, no, man, I don't want to do this, because they don't want to get into a situation that they're not in control of. And lo and behold, I turn around and go, but I only need to hear boom, beam, and you can see all the shoulders come down, and that's where your guide to stress-free drumming comes in. You see, because I'm just boom, we're playing in the wheelhouse. This field. Let's just walk down the street. Let's dance. Let's enjoy ourselves, because this is a moment. in the day, that's the best moment for any musician to have is to be able to do what he or she does for X amount of time and enjoy it with a bunch of other people who understand.
Sure. That's
Okay,
the heart
that's
of it all.
fundamental. Yeah, you get that. All of a sudden, what was an hour or two ends up being mostly the rest of the night. And that's how people never go home all weekend.
You know, it just flies by once you get going. It's like it's midnight already. Are the
There you
neighbors
go.
complaining yet?
Yeah,
You
yeah,
know, let's keep
well, it's
going.
not only that. Neighbors complaining, and the fact is, yeah, it is, and you got to go. The cops are here. You got to. Now it's back to work again. Now I got to take all this stuff apart. All of this stuff that I love to do. Now it's shit. And I got to take all this shit apart, and I got to put it back in. Uh huh. But before it wasn't. When you man, I got to put. Man, I'm getting ready to play, man. Uh huh. But now you got to go home. Oh man, now you're grumbling. Everything negative. Yeah, I guess.
So I'm wondering, how did you find Tommy Bolin? We've had a lot of people write in since the first interview going, please ask him about Tommy. So I was just kind of,
Well, I wasn't paying much attention until I heard something really strange happen over at Talladega. I think no, was it Talladega or was it South Carolina somewhere? At a racing NASCAR thing, a huge place, and it was a big festival, and I was in a band called Dreams,
yeah,
and we were maybe of I don't know how many acts. We couldn't have been more than the second act on the bill, something like that. And the opening act about right in when it's summertime, South Carolina, wherever in the South,
hot.
summer is hot, humid, and they put out these opening acts. To keep the people are coming in, and even then, because the acts that were coming on after us was like you know. Big Brother and the Holding Company. Who else? Uh, oh man, I can't remember the name.
Canned heat.
No, what it's like that it was Grand Funk Railroad was a closing act,
Okay.
and Mick Fleetwood the Fleetwood Mac was the next to the closing act.
Okay.
Um, Doctor Captain Beefheart was on this.
Wow.
That's a wild.
Um, a trio of cats that looked really weird. Two guitar players with beards down to their knees, and a drummer named I think the drummer's name was
Frank Beard?
Beard.
Frank Beard, yeah, ZZ Top.
Ironically. Yeah, he's got a
Yeah.
mustache.
So the only person that I found it to be so funny because I said he's the only guy without a beard,
Yep.
but his name is Beard, and what a nice cat. And I can't remember, but Billy Gibbons was the bass player, I think, or no,
He's the
or was
guitarist.
he's
Yeah.
the guitarist.
Dusty
So Billy
Hill is the
Gibbons,
bassist.
guitar player, and who was the other guy that played bass?
Dusty Hill.
Dusty Hill. So you had those two cats with beards, white beards, all the way down to their knees, and this guy playing drums in the middle named Beard, and I was like, okay, I'll go for it. I sat down, and they were tight as a drum, man. They were rocking, and they were maybe the fourth band on the bill, from the bottom, from the closing act. There was so much going on there, and we were number two. So it's had to be about 9 bands, all that started 2 o'clock in the afternoon,
Sure.
and the opening act was this kid who hit me. I thought, I knew some people out in Iowa, Minnesota, and I'm starting to go. I said, this guy reminds me of some people I know on the Lakota Sioux reservation, but I'm not quite sure because they range down south also, and I was like, nah, it can't be. Then he started playing. I knew. I had some friends with a band called Redbone, which was way back.
Come and get your love.
Yeah, and all that kind of stuff. So I'm like, and we were in Columbia together. Actually, they were with us with Dreams on Columbia, I think. And so I saw this kid, and he was thin, and but he had a feeling, you know. They started playing some stuff, and he had chops, and I'm going, hello. Made us all, me, Randy, Mike Brecker, Michael Brecker, we all sat up, Barry Rogers, and all, we sat up and went, hey, who is that? You know, not only that, what he did with a space echo, which was not called the space. It was the predecessor of the Roland tape echo,
Mhm.
and what he could do with that while playing. So his left hand was doing something here, and he was twisting knobs over here, and his stuff was just not only harmonically correct. And I'm going, okay, how would you write for something like that? But even back then, I couldn't write a note. But I was trying to understand, how do you get people to read that? You know, and there's some people, some neoclassical guys who developed their own musical language, and they would write with icons that say you do this and you slide into this. And this guy was just hearing it, and they were playing, and the group was very consistent and very strong. But he was right out front. He was insane, great frontman. And I started with that. And that's when we all went down. We went first. I mean, easily we would have gone if there was nothing else happening with the opening act. We wouldn't be sitting there. It was hot.
Sure.
He kept our attention. Next thing you know, he was sitting with us. We finished playing, and he was still sitting with us. And we were trying to figure out how to get him on the bandstand with us, to play some more. And he was just, what, he died, what, 27 years old?
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah. So he had to be around 19 then, I guess, in total, you know.
Wow.
And I got to tell you, man, it was like, sitting with him was like, we've been with Tommy for all our lives. I mean, it just sort of clicked right into a spot that was set up for him with in our hearts from the very get go. I mean, he was just like always around, but he wasn't. He just we
Yeah.
ran into him in the middle of in the Midwest, and the next thing you know, he was always with us. He lived up in Woodstock for a while with Gene Perla
Oh,
and
wow.
Beyond and them. They all knew him, more than I even did. I never forgot him. That's why when I thought about making a record, I knew exactly who I was going to have on guitar. You know, I didn't need Abercrombie. It was like I needed to be away from that whole situation for the moment to establish something, only a character musically of my own. Win, lose, or draw. The competition level was so high in New York back then. Um, Basically, because I mean, one of the reasons was we had more people playing and working than we had, and there was no computers and all of that. This was like the real deal. Either you can play or you can't. There's no replacements.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He was,
So getting back, oh, sorry, Sean.
go ahead, Eric.
No, getting back to what you did right after that and going back to Abercrombie and everything and the charts, I wanted to ask you specifically about the Spanish Moss Suite that opens up Crosswinds, which is
Mm-hmm.
your second album on Atlantic Records. So the bulk of that sound portrait, as you called it, is in 1716. And I was wondering if the band was reading a chart or if you just mentioned a time signature to them and they followed along, or maybe you even said something like count the phrasing as a bar of 7/8 followed by a measure of 3/16.
No,
Yeah. So how did that go with Spanish Moss Suite?
I wrote the chart, put it in front of them, and they played it.
Oh, that's amazing. So did you write the horn lines as well, or did the Brecker brothers
Yes,
come up with it
I
on the
wrote
spot like they
the
did in
horn
Dreams?
lines as well.
Oh, I've been wanting to know this for so long. That is fascinating and
Mm-hmm.
incredible. When you recorded it, I know the technology back in 1974 wasn't what it is today, but
Mm-hmm.
were you listening to like 16th note subdivisions or maybe a shaker in your cans while you recorded it,
No,
or you just
no,
played?
no. See, this is where I split roads with the mathematicians. I play the phrase. Everything's in four for me except for one beat less, more or less.
Right.
It's
Yeah,
like
it's just an extra
ba
16th
ba
note.
ba ba da ba bi ba bi da. So it's going to happen over and over and over. So the whole idea is that you learn that phrase And you can do this. It's going to stay the same. And you can put all these different patterns against that as
Uh-huh.
long as it's in sync with what else is happening. Someone's keeping that. John Williams was playing bass, he was doing that.
Right.
George Duke was playing in the left hand, that pattern. And why it worked out so well, because George, even more than John, worked with Frank.
Right.
Was happening. See, so
Sure.
he had been very strongly indoctrinated in what was happening. You know, if you play the black page, you can play anything. So the whole
Yeah.
idea was like that was easy. So you get the people who know how to do that, and you drop them in. You know.
Absolutely incredible. The three albums after Crosswinds were the live
Mm-hmm.
disc Shabazz, which was
Mm-hmm.
recorded in Europe, Total Eclipse, which ended with a brilliant drum solo piece called Last Frontier, and
Mm-hmm.
a funky side of Sings with the famous
Mm-hmm.
Mandrill cover, and
Mm-hmm.
John Schofield replacing John Crumble's Abercrombie on that, and a fantastic cover of Brecker Brothers' Some Skunk Funk.
Before you move,
Yes, sir.
that cover,
Uh huh.
a funky thigh that sings,
Yes.
that's not a mandrill.
Yeah. Oh, it's not. I've always known it as that. Yes, please correct me.
Mandrill's a is a baboon, okay, and baboons are they have a long snout,
Okay.
and okay, that's it's an orangutan as a matter of fact
Oh, okay.
out of
I
India,
was thinking.
but he, out of well his name was Roger, and he
I was
lived
fed rugged. Oh, cool.
yeah Roger lived in San at the San Diego Zoo, yeah, great
Wonderful.
cat. I mean, but he could just do like this, you know, and sometimes
Roger.
you think you see him go, "Hey, how you doing?" You know, and you go, "Really?" You know, and he just sit there like this. Orangutans are interesting personalities, man. Along with silverbacks and all. Silverbacks are much more stern, um, very focused. The orangutans longer arms and more, I guess, instead of you don't see orangutans picking up a picking a barbell so much as just their arms are almost twice as long as their no like it's if they were to stand straight up they'd be at the arm is at least two-thirds their length, you know. But they're I see them more as how can I put it? You could put them on a bicycle, you know, and I mean
Oh,
strength unbelievable, you know, like very long bicycle, big bicycle, but very strong, and so they just stay in the trees because of that. The arms are very long, and they live up in the upper branches, you know, and that's their protection, you know, except from the harpy eagles or something like that. But generally speaking, you know, and the silverbacks, of course, are on the ground most of the time, but of course they can get up in the trees easily. But it's not the same, you know. It's not like it's like two different personalities, you know,
yeah.
and very unique, very unique. Yeah,
So Roger the orangutan, I love it.
Roger.
So on
Yeah.
those three records, Alex Blake was the bassist on all of them, and he had a similar path as you, being born in Panama and moving to Brooklyn at a young age. I believe he's a bit younger, but I was wondering if you knew him growing up.
No, I didn't know him growing up. I came across him. I don't know how, but I felt blessed. As a matter of fact, he we did a roast Billy Cobham night on Zoom, and at Berkeley College of Music, and I invited him to come, and Ron Carter and a few other bass players. It was really wonderful to have those guys, and Alex, because Alex had worked with Randy Weston and a lot of different artists like this who were also kind of crossroads. He Manhattan Transfer places, people like this.
Oh wow.
So, he was bass player for them for a long time. As far as I'm concerned, never really got the recognition that he should have received.
Yeah,
Only
another reason I wanted to bring him up today.
only now he's one of the elders, but he's about Alex. I think when he was working with me, he was around 19 or so. So it was,
Wow.
yeah.
Yeah, he was
But
crushing it.
see, that means, and so I was about 30 years old. I mean, when I had my band, it's 74. I'm 30, you know, and he's 19 back then, and he's in the band.
And so there were several original songs that you penned that were only released on live records. Did you write those specifically for the tours, or were they tracks that had been around for the previous studio sessions but never made it to the albums for some reason? A few of those songs are Shabazz,
Mm-hmm.
10th Pin, which had two
Mm-hmm.
ends,
Mm-hmm.
Hip Pockets,
Mm-hmm.
and Flight Time.
Yeah, right. Flight Time, I think, might be the oldest one. That almost made the Dreams album.
Wow.
It
And it
almost
didn't
made
come
the
out till about 80 or 81.
Yeah, it almost made the Dreams album, but it wasn't ready at the time, and I was just, in my mind trying to figure out which end was up with me. What can I do? I was looking again out of, I'd say, uh, it was a need to figure out a way to earn a living. Really was what it was. What do I do? I wrote that tune, Flight Time, at Trans Maximus Recording Studios in 19, what's it? Yeah, so 1968, 69. Dreams was
Wow.
recording, um, and the producer was the guitar player with not the meters, the guitar player that what they did.
Steve Cropper?
It was Steve Cropper, Trans
Yeah.
Maximus in Memphis. Yeah, and we were there, and I started writing something like that. I was tinkering with things, and I didn't know what I was doing. I had no idea. And eventually, as the way it works with music for me, you write these themes and you try and I had just the right people in the right frame of mind at the time to try anything, and that was the Brecker brothers, Barry Rogers, anything that put in front of them. They were young, they didn't care, about their chops. They didn't, and I didn't know anything more about that. I didn't understand. I mean, these are very delicate, armatures and stuff like this. These guys would just play anything you wanted, man. If they would put the music up in front, they didn't care. They just want to play music. Can't do that now, or couldn't even do that 40 years ago anymore. I mean, things have changed so much. So that said, um, I put it away. The other pieces that you heard when we played, I one of the things that I could admit to for purpose, I wrote a tune. What was it? There was one tune that I felt that I didn't want to play anymore because I felt it was too close to another tune that I'd heard, and out of respect, and that was on it sounded like some other rock. I mean, when I thought about it, I said, I'm not gonna play this live. We recorded it, but I didn't feel comfortable with it. And so we did it. We did it in live in Norway. I can't remember. That is actually, um, that is what you just showed me.
Flight
Black and white.
Time?
No, not Flight
Uh,
Time. Show me the four
uh,
albums, and I'll
uh,
tell you which ones.
uh, there'd have been Shabazz.
Shabazz. That's exactly right. Um, uh,
Yeah.
because it's in
Yeah, the
seven.
10th Pin.
No,
10th
ten pin.
Pin.
10 pin is
Yeah.
10 pin is cool, but
Okay.
Shabazz was in seven.
Shabazz.
But it
Right.
reminded me a lot of and it went a different direction than the rock tune but it was inspired by a rock tune by a rock band, and I went,
I see.
that's plagiarism, man. I don't think I need to do this, and I just never played it live again.
I understand. That's
It
awesome.
just
Um,
didn't make sense, and leave it.
sure.
Yeah. Mhm.
Sure. Backtracking to Spectrum, I always loved and thought it was so cool that two of the six tracks opened with an unaccompanied drum solo as the introduction. You even
Mhm.
titled these short pieces, which was a wonderful touch. And I'm not so sure if I ever heard that kind of thing done before. So I was wondering, was this an idea you had for a while, but had to wait until your first release to put in play? Or had you
Mm-mm.
heard this on an earlier album from someone and liked the idea?
Mm-mm. With knee jerk reaction, it's knee jerk.
Cool.
All of this is knee jerk. It's like, I wonder what would happen if they do that. Okay, we won't know until we try. Okay, let's do it. Bang, and it was done. And we're like, well, we're still standing. Okay, next case. That's done. We move on. You
So,
know.
so speaking of which, so those drum solo pieces, such as "Searching for the Right Door,"
Yeah.
"Anxiety,"
Hmm.
"Storm," and "Last
Yeah.
Frontier,"
Hmm.
were they improvised, or perhaps you
Yes.
had a skeleton of the idea and then you
No.
recorded a take or three in the studio?
Absolutely not. It's not that complicated.
Wow,
You just
wow,
do it. Searching for the
yeah.
right door. Somebody's walking, and then you play on top of it and try to interpret that sound as being somebody walking across the studio floor or something like this. And kept up, bang,
Wonderful.
and then bang, da 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 da, and then we're off. Yeah.
That's terrific. In 2000, Wounded Bird Records released five of your solo albums from the 1970s on CD that were originally released on Atlantic. In 2015, they
Ah,
got around to issuing your record called BC, which I
yeah,
believe was the last one of the decade in 1979.
yeah.
Did you have anything to do with these reissues or the ones that were on other labels? I think the most recent is the CD
Uh huh.
DVD release of the live album by your group Glass Menagerie.
Right. Well, the last one you're just showing me now
Uh
is
huh.
that was put out by I sanctioned that with a but those are
Okay.
okay with I forget the name of the company, the people who were
Gonzo
doing it,
Multimedia.
something like that. But the whole thing was
Yeah.
like it was just like people. These were like what's it, the National uh, Biscuit Hour or something,
Yeah, the
something
flower,
flour, yeah, something like that.
King Biscuit Flower Hour. King
Yeah,
Biscuit
yeah. So they
Flower
would
Hour.
they would do
Yeah.
all of these kind of things, and no one. And I wasn't earning anything. None of us was earning anything, from my knowledge, on any of this stuff. It was just we were being, well, as usually, ripped off. So this way, we were still being ripped off, but not as much. We get a couple of pennies, but we never
That's
got
what I
any
was
pennies
wondering.
before.
That's wild.
But
Yeah.
the one situation where you showed the Wounded Bird, which is why I laughed, is because
Yeah.
I know for sure that was Atlantic Records, Warner Brothers. But technically could never prove it. You know, they needed to make
Oh,
money, so
I see.
some brainy person with nothing else better to do in his or her life, because Atlantic did not want artists like myself, as me anyway. I shouldn't say artists like myself. The whole objective was not for me not to generate any more income or any more attraction to myself in the business, because they didn't control it. Uh, they just they needed to make more money, so they said, okay, you can't put it out on Atlantic, you can't put it out on Warner, you can't put it out on Columbia. I mean, so put it out on something that some guy got a permission to put out all this material. It's not just me, Lenny White. These are all of the
Yeah.
records that were
Tons.
sitting around that they didn't want to have anyone really to draw attention on the radio. But at that point in time, it didn't matter about the radio. Radios never did anything anyway for us. So
Sure.
for some reason, they set this thing aside as being something really. Oh, by the way, in the area of uh, what they call it, classic fusion, or they come up with names that were like,
Yeah.
okay, whatever you want to call them, man, whatever. Or where jazz or funk became was rock and roll before, now it's funk, and then it becomes this, and then, and and it goes on like this because they can. And
Yeah.
meanwhile, for me, I said, I always said, don't, if you call me, okay, cool. I said this to Buddy Rich, by way of the press. I said, yeah, as long as you put me down, that's great. Because that means everybody's going to read what you, and I don't have to pay for this.
Yeah. Yeah. Bad
And
press is
then,
still press.
and then he stopped and swore that if anybody talked about me at all, he'd have their head. So something like this.
That's awesome.
But he was doing me a great big favor, because I'm not good enough for this and I'm not good enough for that. No, cool, no problem. Good. Keep talking, man. But there's something about truth. You gotta have the truth. When the truth
Absolutely.
comes out, Might be a little bit different than what one was thinking before.
Got a
Well, this is yeah. Oh, go ahead,
Yeah,
Sean.
Sean.
got a couple questions in the chat room. I wanted to
Hmm.
slip in here real quick.
Hmm.
Any memories of the Purple album with Miroslav back in
That was
1970?
easy. Yeah, that's all. It was done in the kitchen, the bedroom, and the toilet.
Good
In
reverb.
in one apartment. Yeah, yeah, sure. We were a kitchen. I'm trying to think of where I was. I was playing in the kitchen with Chick. Oh no, and Miroslav. We put the table off to the side. I think. Oh well, the recording engineer was in the bedroom, his bedroom. Wayne Shorter was in the in the shower, in the towel, in the tub, in the bathroom. Um, Chick Corea might have been out on the, but in the hallway to this apartment where you walk in through the main door, and that had no name at the time. That was actually, well, wasn't that Chick? No, Joe's Avenue is on that. Joe's Avenue. Chick Corea is on the Coriel's Spaces album, the original
Oh
one.
yeah,
Yeah,
great.
That was
yeah.
done there too. It was done there too.
Really? That
Yeah.
the same way?
So the same way, and it was all, we were talking about a bunch of friends of ours, a bunch of us coming together because somebody said, "Hey man, what are you doing this afternoon?" And, I'm home. Can you come over to David Baker's place? I got some tunes,
Wow.
and Joe and Wayne. I don't know if Joe was living in Weehawken, but I know Wayne was in Jersey. It took, you took the New Jersey Rail Transit, you came over, it cost you like 25, 30 cents, and you got on, and you came downtown to the village, and that's where, David Baker was. And everybody just would
Wow.
fall into there. And the next thing you know, something started at 10 or 11 o'clock in the morning, and by late afternoon, we'd recorded just some ideas. And that's how Weather Report started. Larry Coryell's Spaces started. Um, Mahavishnu Orchestra started, as with Miroslav playing bass, and I mean, with all of us, we were all kind of a group of comrades, like Picasso and Calder, and those. They went to a restaurant, and they talked about their works and discussed what was happening in the art business amongst themselves from time to time, and the the owner of the restaurant, anything they would draw, stuff like that. You would allow them to draw on the tablecloth. Didn't care. You know how much that stuff is worth these days, man.
I can
The
imagine.
originals, just arguments about design and stuff like that. Hundreds of thousands of bucks,
Yeah.
Wow.
millions, and that's we were doing for the love of the art, and then also, looking for people to work together with, feeling comfortable with. And Miroslav was right in the center of it all. Al Muzan was there. Alphonse, he was the other drummer. Yeah, and that's how. And we all, at one point or another, ended up working with Miles somehow. McLaughlin was there as well. And I think I can't remember who else was there. It was a bunch of people just came and went and played a little bit and split. Um, but the house, I was kind of house drummer there for a little while. It was lots of fun to do.
That's awesome.
So,
That's awesome.
yeah.
Um,
Right around that time, in July 1971, you played a concert in LA with a star-studded lineup. On CTI reissues in 2002, Red Clay ended up on the Freddie Hubbard album, and while Sugar ended up as the bonus track on the Stanley Turrentine. Um, can you tell us a little bit about that performance, which also included George Benson on guitar, Ron Carter on bass, and Airto Moreira on percussion? Was this a
Hmm.
working unit that toured, or is there a full concert release from that show or any other recordings with that stellar outfit?
I can say one word that covers it all. No.
Oh,
darn.
It's we went out on a project to work together in California.
hmm
We did it and we came home. We may have played a couple of different cities. I don't know. For sure,
cool.
L.A., maybe San Francisco, maybe down San Diego. That's as much as I can recall. And we
Okay,
just
cool.
we just did that.
Yeah.
But it was not out of line because we were in the studio most of the time. together. I mean, the leaders just changed their names. The
Yeah,
leader position just changed by somebody that was playing in the background. So it could have been from one day to the next. It was Stanley, uh, J.J. Johnson. Ron had records he was making there. It was like every day somebody. Herbie would come in, or Keith Jarrett would be there for something. Sebesky was making, and it just went on like this all the time, man.
sure.
Got another question. Do you remember
I gotta let you guys know. I gotta go by in about 10 minutes. I've got to go.
okay,
I've got another
Okay.
thing I gotta
pick your
do.
best one, Eric. And
Mhm.
do you remember a clinic you did at Berry College in the fall of '91? That's a
Mm-mm.
chat room question. I was say that's a long time ago. Okay. Any
Where's
memories?
Barry College? Where's that?
Where's Berry College?
Rome, Georgia,
Rome, Georgia. Yeah.
No
or
man,
or
I
or,
don't
or
know.
Gainesville, or Rome, Georgia, North Georgia.
Okay, that's cool.
No,
Yeah.
no.
Apparently, someone saw you there then. I'm guessing in the chat room. Any memories of Ronnie Montrose? That's another
Monty
chat room.
Montrose was a guitar player, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and producer. Mhm.
Well, I know him about. I know very little about him. I may have. I did meet him. He played guitar in Tony Williams' band for a minute, I think. Right? Or am I wrong?
It might have been.
Ah,
I don't remember. I remember he mostly played with Edgar Winter's band. I think at
He
one
also
time.
played. He played. Yeah, the Edgar Winter's White Trash Band. They opened or closed to us. I mean, they were like them, and as I mentioned, I may have mentioned before, and Taj Mahal. It didn't matter whether the MO was on stage or not. They were just who they were, and they were rocking.
We were killing it. Yeah.
But Ronnie Montrose, when I met him, and I had any words with him, it was in Japan at Live Under the Sky, where I was a guest of Tony Williams and in a festival, and he was playing in Tony's band along with the bass player from Huey Lewis and the News.
oh wow.
Okay. Yeah, I
Yeah,
remember.
because San Francisco guys.
Yeah, that's
hmm
wild. Okay.
So those two guys. Oh, and Brian Auger was playing organ,
Oh, he's
and
awesome.
that was Tony's band at the time.
Yeah.
And we was, so I was just a guest, and that was the first time anybody ever said to me, I think it was Tony's manager, the guy, whoever that, Bill something, um, came over to me and said, "Tony says you're playing too many drums." And I'm saying, "Pardon?" And I said, "Okay, I'll tell you what. Have Tony come on over." So I said, when Tony came over, I said, "Look, tell me which drums you want me to take away, man. So I'm not playing any more drums than you or less. If that's going to make you happy." He got the message. I don't think that Tony ever said that. This was management, doing what management does.
Yeah. Meddling
Yeah,
sometimes.
there you go.
I've
Mhm.
got a good one. Oh, sorry, Sean. Go
Yeah, go
ahead.
ahead, Eric. What you got?
In 1972, you recorded an anti-drug song called "King Heroin" with James Brown. What can you
Okay.
tell us about that session and how it came about? And did you do any other recording or performing with the Godfather of Soul?
Last question first. No. Um, Question before that. Phil Ramone. We had these answering companies. Radio Registry, Billy's answering service. Like, I got a call out of the blue from Phil from A&R 48th Street that we need you to come over and play on this thing with James Brown. I'm going, oh boy. Okay, now I'm curious, and I go over there, and what did I honestly end up playing on? A pair of bongos,
Oh wow.
Okay.
and I just played some patterns. And that kind of it, man. I don't remember. I knew the name of it was King of Heroin much later, but how would I? I mean, he may even have come in, James, at that point in time, but I didn't. I
Yeah.
didn't. It was a date, and I did it, and I was gone.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, I was wondering if he was even present.
One last
I'm
question.
pretty sure he came. Yes, sir.
Okay.
Chat room, another question. Can you tell us how you came up with the iconic drum groove on 10th Pin? Where did the inspiration
Cool.
come from?
I don't know. I don't even know where the name came from.
With the two N's, Tinn.
Somebody who likes to
I mean,
bowl.
I was totally spaced out. I have no idea, man. You
Okay.
know, it's Billy at his most weird. I mean, whatever I did, and it was like a kind of knee jerk reaction. A young person trying to find a way, um, and somehow I stumbled into it. I stand accused. Yes, it's my fault.
Fair enough. Well, Billy, thanks so much. Is there anything you want to share with our audience before we wrap it up?
Stay well and stay healthy, and somehow the truth will somehow come through. I hope it's before it's too late in the United States. It's nuts what's going on. From what I'm looking on the outside of the bubble, I'm going, this can't be true, can it?
No, well, it's a little less crazy than it was last year. So
Yeah, yeah, you're right. Yeah, you're right.
you
You
know,
know, it's and I hope it continues to.
yeah, well,
Yes,
I
thank you,
these
please.
problems
yeah,
ain't going to go away, but
I hope
it helps
so.
to not have it helps to not have people at the top of the totem pole inflaming things on a daily basis.
There's got to be some money in it
Amen to
somewhere.
that.
That's the reason why it's all happening.
Yeah,
Yeah, because I mean,
Appreciate all
when
your
I say
time.
nothing, but it's not money. It's just mindset kind of materialism thinking in
absolutely.
my drummer's perspective.
Well, we just got to keep on making great music,
There
and
you go. That's all we can do,
that'll
man.
make things better.
Stay
Well,
well.
Yeah.
Billy,
Okay.
thank
Ciao, guys. All
always a
right.
pleasure.
Take
Take
care. Thank you
Take care.
so
All
much.
righty. All
Bye,
righty. Take
Billy.
care. Bye
care.
bye.
We'll see you. Well, thank you, Eric. That was a lot of fun. And
Thank you, Sean. I really appreciate you, man.
yeah, my pleasure. Let's do this again sometime soon.
Absolutely.
We'll see who I can find next to chat with. Um,
Excellent.
and remind everybody again, Billy's stress-free drumming is kind of a course that you can take, I believe. Where you,
Yeah, it's like a
um,
3-hour course or something.
yeah, and he's got a number of different guys with him. Actually, hold on a second. I have a little
Uh, yeah.
screenshot that I want to share with everybody just so they can kind of know what you get if you sign up for this. Because,
Yeah, and I think the guest instructors are Gary Husband, who's
yeah,
also played with McLaughlin and is a great keyboard player, Will Calhoun from Living Color, Dennis Chambers,
okay.
who also played with McLaughlin, and my old technique teacher, Dom Famularo.
There you go. Can you see that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, those are the guys.
So I
Yep.
would encourage you all to go over to official Billy Cobham at Facebook, give that a like, and then explore because there's a lot of really neat stuff in here, and they're just getting started. So I think there's going to be different stuff every week. So very cool, very cool.
Absolutely.
All right, y'all. Well, stay safe. I will be back Saturday night tomorrow. After my gig, I'm going to come home and relax. And then at 10 o'clock, I'm going to chat with John Jorgensen from the Helicasters. And he also played with Elton John quite a bit.
Cool.
Ironically, when David Payton played with Elton, I saw a picture of the two of them on stage the other day. And it's like, oh, that's funny. I had
Oh, wow.
bandmates on, oblivious to me at the time, within the span of a week. So I'll definitely have to ask
Yeah.
about
I
all.
believe Elton's bass player now is Matt Bissonette, and his brother Greg Bissonette is one of the most virtuosic and versatile drummers
Yeah.
ever.
Would you get a kick out of chatting with him if I could get him on here?
He'd be the top guy I would tell you to go get after Mr. Cobb.
Well, I'll see what I can do. All right. Well, fingers crossed. All right, Eric, well, take care, and I'll see everybody tomorrow night at our
You too.
usual show time. And thank you, Billy. What a treat.
Oh my, just an absolute honor and a thrill.
Absolutely. All righty then. Well, take care, and I'll talk to you soon.
Bye bye.